Alright, hear me out. This is So Says Mr. Thunder. I'm Mr. Thunder, and today is Monday, January 15th, 2024. Today is my mother's birthday. My mother just turned 60, and when I tell you her story is one to behold and one to be heard. And I can't do nothing but say, thank God for my mom. 60 is a big deal. Anyways, if this is your first time coming to the podcast, man, I appreciate you for coming. Somehow you heard about it, whether you heard it from me, a friend, or, you just landed on it. Either way, you here, and I appreciate it. For those of you returning, man, we rocking already into 2024, and I appreciate you for being part of this journey. Means the world to me. So let's just go ahead and dive on into it. Man, this past week for me has been one for the books. My life has been taking a direction that I guess I could say I never would have seen coming. But it all plays into me practicing what I preach. And always continuing to seek counsel. So anyways, I've kind of, learned how to, like I say, navigate in these three separate lives that I live, my personal, my home, and my work. And as far as 2024 is gone, I could say that each aspects of those lives, the focus has been to make the best out of it, clean up any clutter, and be happy. Find the joy in it. And this past week, man, it was something to behold. I can say, personal life. There was some what ifs that I have been, kind of, I would say, repeat offenders, not prosecuting accordingly, and I finally decided to, just, go ahead and close the loop on some of those things. That helped me with my home life, because then I was able to focus in on that as well and close the loop on some things there. And then at work, wanting to do better and constantly pushing myself to do these things, I'm able to do that because I have peace in my personal and my home life. And, some things came up to where opportunities may have presented themselves to me that have, been what I've been asking for. So that's been good. I've met some great people. And in accomplishing this happiness in all aspects of my life, I had an opportunity to do something that I just never did before. I had went to the first, my first playoff game, NFL playoff game here in Houston. Was on the sideline. Got to see, what it's like to live that life, to be a part of something like that, in that fashion. And not by my own doing, but just being in the right place at the right time and living, accordingly. So that leads me into today's message. This one is going to be a message. So I appreciate you for just kind of spending a little time with me, on these things. As I stated earlier, it's my mom's birthday. Obviously, this is Martin Luther King holiday, and that's something that needs to be celebrated, but has been lost in this world. So at some point, what he stood for is eventually going to make its way full circle. But anyways, I keep talking about this story, my story, his HIS story being mine, Mr. Thunder. So in seeking counsel, there were some things that I've been able to bounce off of people and get information and clarity on some of the things that I need to make decisions, and all those things have been working in my favor. But this is something that, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God, this is something that I landed on, right? The story of your life. It's a story that is always and constantly unfolding. But what if I was to tell you that this story of your life has already been written, right? It's already been written. The difference is, where the confusion comes, is what chapter are you on? You know what I'm saying? And how do you choose to read and translate this story, your story? Do you put this book, this story of your life, do you put it down sometimes? Are you surprised at some things that are happening? I know I'm not a big reader. I'm a talker, as you could tell. I'm not a big reader, but I do listen, right? And the one thing I do understand about, I hate to say this, but reading is fundamental in the aspect of, it's something that has already been written, but you're learning while you're reading it, and you're going through something, you're experiencing something as you're reading these pages. My favorite book of all time was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Now, if you've never read the book, then you'll never understand the surprise when you realize that Frankenstein is not the monster, but it's actually the doctor who created him. And his name in the book is the monster. But on the outside looking in, the perception of what Frankenstein is Frankenstein is a monster. Now, reading this book, I think I was in middle school. I had to be in like the 8th grade or something like that. I went into reading this book, assuming that I was going to find out about this tall, put together human monster that's just, all out of sorts and scary in a way. But to make a long story short, you read this and you realize that the real monster was the doctor who decided to create this monster by putting together pieces of different people to fill a void that he had in his life of perfection, or what he thought perfection was supposed to be. And once this monster realized that he'll never be able to live his own life because of what other people see, he had to find a way out. And, it ended in a way that, obviously I'm not going to tell you because you got to read the book. But I want to get back to us, our story, your story, right? As I was reading this book, right, sometimes I put a chapter down because it was too much. It was too intense, or it made me mad, or I felt some kind of way about it. But then when I decided to pick the book up and I turned the page, I realized that my surprise, in a way, shouldn't be a surprise. Why? Because the author has already written what's supposed to happen. So technically, it's not really a surprise because it already exists, right? Why assume because you read or you heard about it that that's the way it's supposed to be? And then when you turn a page, you realize, like, man, I didn't see that coming. I was really in shock. But think about it. Think about it in the aspect of the physical. The book itself has already been written. The pages, no matter how you turn them, they're always going to be what's on that page. It's just where you are when you actually read it and pay attention to it, it's going to make the impact on your life, right? I'll tell you like this. The one thing I learned in my time with the ministry is that there are no surprises and there are no secrets when it comes to God. Your life has already been written the way it's supposed to be. The only way you're going to find out what the next chapter has to hold is to turn the page. When you turn the page, you realize that you've been holding yourself back from this encounter, this experience, this opportunity, or whatever it may be, that has caused you to keep putting the book down because it's too much, or it doesn't make any sense, or you read through it so fast that you don't really get the message out of it, right? And it's on to the next one. I guess what I'm trying to tell you is that my story, your story, consists of many chapters that have already been written. And all you have to do is turn the page to realize that this story that has been written for you to read. And then once you read it, you're supposed to tell and talk about it so that others may want to read their book. They might want to pick it up. They might want to see what's going on there. There's something in this book that allows the other person to learn from it and gain the wisdom, the knowledge that you have, because it has already been written. There's no need to hide it. There's no need to keep it to yourself. There's no need to have that book on the shelf and it's just there because you want it as a part of a collection. It means nothing if you haven't written it. I'm sorry. If you haven't read it. A book has no value if it hasn't been read. And the only way to tell if a book has been read is to see that the pages have been turned. Those pages have already been written. Have you had an opportunity to reflect on your story, to look back and say, man, I can't believe that happened? There was a time and a chapter in my life that I thought I was stuck on. But then when I turned the page and I read what was on the other side of that page, I realized that God has already written my story. So there's no need to keep putting this book down, because your story is the most important story in the history of your life. It's just, do you want to pick it up? Do you want to read it? Are you ready to turn the page? Because I promise you, it's already been written. Turn the page. Where you at in your story? What chapter are you on? Are you hung up on something? Is there something you need to say? Is there something you want to learn? I don't know. Whatever it may be, I want to hear about it. If you got 10 minutes just to sit down with me and have a conversation, I guarantee you we can get your story out here so that somebody else can pick this book up and read what has already been written. I can tell you I've had encounters with people where they have told me some things that have come to them in the process of them turning the page and realizing that just because it's always been done that way, just because it's always been translated that way, it doesn't mean that you can't turn the page and continue to read into the next chapter. I challenge you, 2024, pick up that book, turn the page. Don't be surprised at what you find out, because guess what? It already has been written. I want to hear about it. Holla at me. This has been So Says Mr. Thunder. I'm Mr. Thunder. I'm a Native American of this country, and there ain't a damn thing you can do about it. Please do me a favor and share this podcast with somebody. I believe that it's going to help somebody. It's going to help you. It helps me at the same time to get the feedback. So I definitely appreciate the feedback. I look forward to it. I do this for the feedback, because in the feedback is when I seek the counsel. And I guarantee you, anybody who has seek counsel with somebody and learn something, they realize it's the best conversation they ever had. So I want to hear from you. 10 minutes of your best. I can be found on all podcast platforms. This one specifically is Spreaker. I know there's a bunch of them out there. I know the popular ones are iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, amongst other ones. But yeah, check me out. Become a part of the movement, because I believe that this is a book. There is a book that needs to be read and added to the collection of this awesome audio encyclopedia of wisdom. Until next time, I'll holler at you. And remember, you don't know until you do. So turn the page, because it's already been written. I'm out.